Welcome to Legendary Physique. I'm Richard Baldwin, your host, and I'm talking to Jerry Brainum about his November Applied Metabolics newsletter. But before we talk about that, I want to give my condolences to Jerry about Chip. You want to tell the audience about Chip?
Yeah, Chip was my dog. I had him for 4 years. I'll tell you how I got him. I had my dog Bruno. I have another dog, Bruno. What happened was I was kind of working with a dog rescue, and they asked me if I could what do they call it, foster a dog for 2 weeks, and they brought Chip over, and it was only supposed to be for 2 weeks. And I looked at him, and he was like a little brown Chihuahua mix, about 20 pounds. And I said, have you tried to get him adopted? And they said, well, we can't get him adopted because no one wants him because he's a brown Chihuahua, which I didn't understand at all. But then I realized the truth about Chip. Chip was very rambunctious. he, he would, when I'd walk him down the street, he'd go after everybody like he wanted to kill them, but he had a real personality. He was very lively. And after about 3 days, I bonded with the dog, and I realized that he was going to be my dog, and he was my buddy for 4 years, and he basically he was like the life of the party. When I did videos, he'd bark in the background when the mailman showed up. I mean, he was just a great little dog. Unfortunately, he got this very, very, very fatal form of cancer, and he was good all the way to the end. I mean, in fact, he actually didn't stop eating till the day he died. I didn't expect it. I took he didn't want, he was too weak to walk, and I was going to take him in the next day to be euthanized because I realized he was just going fast. And I walked my other dog. I came back, and Chip died, and I broke my heart. And I miss him dearly. What can I say? I mean, like I say, I don't have any kids. My dogs are like children to me,
Yeah.
and I love them dearly. So what I'm thinking of doing now, I still have my dog Bruno. What I might do is contact the rescue again and offer to foster dogs because I really do want to save as many dogs as I can. And the way these rescues work, when they pull a dog from a shelter, a kill shelter, they have to have a place to put the dog. So that's where foster comes in. You
Yeah.
take the dog temporarily, and then every so often the rescue will pick up the dog and try and get him adopted at these open adoptions. Hopefully the dog gets adopted soon. And by doing that, you save the dog. So I'm going to see if I could somehow develop the mindset where I can foster these little dogs without getting emotionally bonded. It's going to be
Yeah.
tough, but I have to keep it in my mind that my goal is to save as many dogs as possible.
Yeah.
So I have Chip's ashes here. He was, and I have him on my wall here. All my other pets that have passed away, but I'll never forget Chip, and he was just a great, great friend. So what can I say?
Well, again, I'm sorry about Chip's death, and I
Yeah,
know it hurts, but life goes on, and do the best we can.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Well, let's get on with the newsletter then. I mean, last month was great. You had one in particular that I was interested in. That was the anti-inflammatory article
right. Yeah,
with the diet and all that sort of stuff. So,
right,
I mean, it was worth it for just that. But you had other ones like, can exercise neutralize the negative effects of a bad diet?
right,
And is it true that only oral anabolics are harmful to liver function? I mean, there's
right,
just a bunch of stuff in every issue. But
right.
you got another one, and you told me this is a little different. But let's let the audience hear about what's coming up in November issue.
Okay, the November issue, as you said, it's a little bit different because, Richard, from being a subscriber that once or twice a year, what I do is I kind of like write about these science conferences, where they present new emerging studies that haven't been published yet. Uh, and as I said in the article, I used to actually attend these science conferences years ago when I wrote for the bodybuilding magazines. But I noticed they actually stunk. Actually, it was a waste of time to go there because what it really is, and this is what they'll never tell you, it's basically a way for all these researchers who are in various parts of the country to get together and kind of party and tell each other how great they are. And what they do is they present seminars where they talk about some of their recent studies and they use PowerPoint presentations. But if you read the science journals, you already know the studies. It's like a complete redundant waste of time. So I stopped going. But what I started to doing, I started to get abstracts of other studies that haven't been published but are presented at these at these science conferences. So that's what I did in this particular article for November. I kind of looked at all the studies. They were presented as what they call poster presentations. These are basically short versions of studies that will probably be published in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did is I chose only the ones I thought had relevance for the readers of Applied Metabolics, because you have to understand a lot of the studies, and this is really bad. I've noticed a pattern over the year. It's become increasingly commercialized, these conferences, where you have these supplement companies that pay researchers, they're kind of like hired guns to do these studies pushing certain products. And you have, unless you have the ability to recognize these kind of, if you want to call them fake studies for what they are, a lot of people write about these studies on the internet without realizing that all they're doing is being shills for these supplement companies. So,
Well,
but
that's because unlike you, they don't understand the scientific method and the
right,
double blind studies and all that sort of stuff. That's you need
exactly.
to know to read through a research and article and see whether they've really got it based on facts or not,
Well, that's a very valid
whether it's
point. These
designed properly or not. Yeah.
exactly these people do not understand the difference between a bad study and a good study. Let's just
Right.
say. So what I did is I kind of went through all these studies and I found again the ones that I felt would be relevant. And the good part about this is all new information that hasn't been published. I mean, some of the topics I talk about, there's actually it looks like, I mean, if you get the news, it'll look like there's only one article. But when you open it, you'll realize it's still 50 pages
Mm-hmm.
as usual, but what it consists is of 17 short articles. Now, as you know, most of my newsletters vary from 3 to 5
Yeah.
articles, but they're longer articles. These are 17 shorter articles, but the size of the newsletter is still the same. And I discuss, like I say, some of the most relevant studies. For example, I have an article on the substance called alpha GPC, how it affects the thyroid, anabolic steroids, their effect on anger, branch chain amino acids, and their effect on promoting glucose uptake into muscle, how the supplement betaine affects women. I have an article on carnitine and exercise. I have a new article on citrulline. I have
Wow.
an article collagen peptides and muscle growth. I have an article on flexible versus strict dieting. In other words, flexible means that you concentrate more on the macronutrients like protein, carbs, and fat rather than calories. Which one works better? I have an article on a new form of whey protein they're pushing called native whey. Is it better or the same as regular whey? I have an article on how nutrition affects mixed martial arts fighters. Another one's on paleo diets. Another one's on pre-workout supplements. Another one's on prebiotics, how they affect muscle gains. What's the amount of protein needed to maximize nitrogen retention for muscle hypertrophy? How safe are long-term high protein diets? I mean, if you stay on them more than a year, are they going to hurt your kidneys and liver? A lot of people worry about that. I have an article on still another natural testosterone boosting supplement. Does it really work? So these are just some of the articles I have, and like I say, I think it's probably now, the last time I edited it was just under, it was 49 point something pages, so it's probably 50 pages now. So, but see, here's a key point though. It's anybody can write about these studies. I mean, you can write about them anywhere on a blog. The difference is after each let's say, discussion of the study, I have a little section called practical points. Now, in that section, which is boxed off, like I do, how I have my summaries
Yeah.
boxed off? Each practical point is boxed off in a blue background. In that one, I explain the practical relevance. This is where I differ from the web guys.
Yeah.
And I talk about how you can apply, let's say, what I'm writing on citrulline or whatever, how you can apply this information to your training and your diet right now. That's the difference. I'm not just throwing studies. Oh, here, I mean, that's nice, but it's you walk away scratching your head. Okay, so what do I do about it? I tell you what to do about it. That's the difference, and that's why I think this is very useful for readers. They will get a lot of information out of this issue.
Well, that's why I subscribed in the first place because you know what you're talking about. You've been studying this stuff for years, and you summarize information that it would take me forever to look up and go
Right.
through. You do that for me. You do all the work for me, and then I've got what I need to maximize my health, strength, and physique right there in your newsletter.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Right.
that one sounds like it's got a lot of different. This issue, just like every issue, has so many different things for different people. I think that's
Right.
what I like about your newsletter too.
Well, a couple of readers requested. A couple of readers actually liked some of the past articles they did on these science conferences, and they actually asked me if I could do more. Because I think they like them because the articles, let's face it, are much shorter than my usual article. I mean, each one of these little articles is probably 1 or 2 pages. That's all they are.
Uh-huh.
But they, maybe a little more than that, some of them. But I mean, they're much shorter than my typical article in a play. So they're very easy to read. You don't have to, I mean, it's just a little bit easier for some people to do that.
Yeah.
And, but the point gets across. And like I say, I wrote only on the stuff I consider practical and useful. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that was presented at the conference that I consider just absolute garbage. I mean, it just had no relevance for anybody. I don't even know why the studies were done. Others were just pure commercial studies to push some products, and I didn't want to write about them either because Applied Metabolics, as anybody who subscribes knows, is 100% non-commercial,
Yeah.
meaning that I'm not trying to push any supplements. I'm not trying to push anybody's product. I'm just trying to give truth and solid evidence-based information. That's it. And I think I do that with every issue.
Well, that's why I base my lifestyle on your newsletter.
I mean, the stuff I have some again, even coming up in future issues. For example, the next article I'm working on, which will be in the December issue, is I'm going to include one article. I think you'll find this interesting. All the based on current available science evidence, what are the best training techniques to actually boost muscle size without using any drugs? In other words, based on science. I mean, because, we all get a lot of stuff thrown, train this way, train that way,
Yeah.
go to failure, don't go to failure, do a lot of sets, don't do a lot of sets, lift the weight fast, lift the weight slow. People are confused. They don't know what is the best way to train. Now, we're all different. You know that.
Yeah.
Some guys respond better to doing more sets than others. Other guys or women respond better to high intensity, versus low intensity, et cetera. We are all individuals,
It's
but
just like the diet. There's the individual biochemical nature to our bodies
exactly,
too. So yeah, we react
that's
differently to foods.
exactly right. In other words, some people will respond, like myself, respond much better to low carb diets. Other people feel they lose muscle and get weak and fatigued on low carb diet. It's the same with the training, but there are certain basic principles. And Arthur Jones used to say this. Remember Arthur Jones, the eccentric, the Nautilus inventor? He used to say, while it's true that people vary in their response to exercise, there are certain core principles that do apply. If you're a human, they will work for you. In other words, as long as you're human and you have human physiology, these will work for you. And that's what I'm covering in this article.
Great.
I'm going to cover the core principles of muscle hypertrophy that will work for everybody. That, in other words, if you use this, I mean, you don't have to adjust other things like training volume and that kind of stuff. That's something you have to experiment with. But the core principles, what actually stimulates muscle growth according to established science, that's what I'll be covering in this article.
Well, you got me excited about December now.
Yeah, I don't think you don't see this in the bodybuilding magazines or online.
Yeah.
I mean, they take one subject, and everybody has their own opinion. They're very opinionated. But I'm just I don't have any. I'm basically just giving the core science. I'm basically telling people what works, and I'm not injecting my own opinion. I will if I disagree with something based on my own. Is the fact that I've trained for 55 years. It's a good, pretty solid background. I mean, if I see something that science says works and I know doesn't, then I would have to say something because I don't want to mislead anybody. So and I worked for the magazines. I used to talk to all the top bodybuilders. I'm very familiar with various training routines. So I kind of know what works and what doesn't work. Let me put it that way.
Well, science is just now catching up with what bodybuilders figured out by trial and error. So.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I remember doing crunch sit-ups in the mid '60s. In fact, that's when my abdominals got really good. I mean, a friend of mine went to Vince's gym, and Vince Garanda taught him how to do crunch sit-ups. Guy came back to New York, showed me how to do it. I started doing them. and my abs got so great. All right, I was a teenager then, but people were taking photos of my abs. I mean, people would, I'd raise my shirt and they'd take pictures because I had those really thick cube
Yeah.
abs, really thick cube abs. That's what I had from doing these crunch sit-ups. But here's the point: crunch sit-ups didn't become popular among the public till maybe 20 years later. But bodybuilders were doing them 20 years earlier. Same with low carb. I can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
People will talk about how stupid bodybuilders are, but the thing is, when it comes to exercise and nutrition techniques, bodybuilders are often light years ahead of even the scientists.
Yeah.
So, stupid one. you
All
know.
right. Well, it sounds like you got two good issues coming up. I can't
Yep.
wait to read the November one. So it was
Yep.
great talking to you, Jerry. Again, we're very sad to hear about Chip. He was a
Yeah.
great dog.
Well, I'll never
And
forget. I'll tell you. My dogs will live on in my heart, like they say, in my memory. And I mean, there's an expression about saving dogs, but the truth is, speaking of myself personally, my dogs saved me too in a way because just having their companionship really helps me a lot. I mean, like I said online a couple of times, it's gotten to the point where I can't imagine not having a dog.
well,
You know what I mean?
you saw how many people uh, sent messages of condolences to
Yeah,
you with
yeah,
hundreds uh,
right.
when Chip died. So
And I really appreciate that. I'm glad you understand how I feel. I mean, so I do say thank you to all. Somebody established a fund when Chip was still alive because I was trying to give him cancer treatment. It was very expensive. Some of the people who I've never met in person. Some of these people on Facebook were very kind enough. I mean, anything helped. Some gave
yeah.
$5, $20, whatever. I mean, they were kind enough to contribute. And and as I said in a post, that's how you have this expression, Facebook friends, but these people turn out to be not just Facebook friends, but real friends. And I will always appreciate the kindness they showed in trying to help me and Chip with that fund. And also, even if it's just the condolences, the fact that they were kind enough to say something, I really deeply appreciate that.
All right, my good friend. We'll see you next month for
Okay.
a more detailed analysis of your December issue. But right
Okay.
now, I can't wait till the November issue comes out.
All right.
Have a good one. Bye bye.
You, you too. Take care.
If you want the latest in exercise and nutrition science, then sign up for Jerry Brainum's Applied Metabolics newsletter.